Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and today I'm going to be doing a recent book haul. So back at the start of 2018, I said that I wanted to haul everything that I acquired on this channel in order to make myself more aware of how many books I acquire, and it's definitely made me much more aware of how many books I acquire. And I also said that I was going to try and acquire less books, which either hasn't happened or I was just really unaware of how many books I used to acquire. The last book haul I did was back in the end of May, I think, so this is covering all the books that I have acquired in June, July, August and September. There are 16 books I have to go through. 5 are digital/audiobooks, 5 are review copies and 6 are books that I purchased. So let's get straight into the books. To start off with the digital and audiobooks, I bought one audiobook in the last few months, and that was an audiobook of Mansfield Park, which cost £2.99 because I already had a Kindle version and it was just on Whispersync. I'd read Mansfield Park before, but during Jane Austen July I finished my Pride and Prejudice audiobook earlier than I thought I would and wanted another audiobook to carry on for the rest of the readathon, so I bought an audiobook of Mansfield Park. It was great. I like Mansfield Park a lot. It's the story of a young woman called Fanny Price who is sent away to live with her wealthier relatives and is a bit oppressed but also very morally strong and sure of herself in a very quiet way. It's great, as Jane Austen always is. And I also got 4 things on Kindle in the last few months. The first thing was also for Jane Austen July, and that was The Castles of Athlin and Dunbayne by Anne Radcliffe. Anne Radcliffe is an author that Jane Austen admired and references several times in books like Northanger Abbey, and I've been meaning to read something by Anne Radcliffe for ages, so I thought I would download this for Jane Austen July. I didn't actually get around to reading it in Jane Austen July, but hopefully I will at some point in the next year or so. And I also bought on Kindle a biography of Lady Constance Lytton, who was an important suffragette. I've already read this one. I read it back in August, I think, and I found it a really interesting look at the history of the suffrage movement. The other 2 ebooks I downloaded recently were both out of copyright free ones, and they were the short story Dr. Marigold by Charles Dickens and the novel Olive by Diana Mullet-Craik. Both of these I got specifically for Victober, and they were on my Victober TBR, and I'm hoping to read them very soon, and I'm very excited about both of them. Now on to the review copies I've been sent in the last few months. I'm pleased to say that I have read 4 out of the 5 review copies I've been sent recently, which is good. I'm getting better at actually reading my review copies when they get sent to me, although I still have some review copies that have been on my shelves for quite a long time. But I'm getting better at the ones that are being sent to me now, so I guess that's good. Anyway, this is The Wrecker by Noel O'Reilly, and this was sent to me back in June by HQ Stories, and I really enjoyed it. It's a historical fiction novel set in the early 19th century, and it looks at a young woman called Mary and how she kind of gets involved with a local Methodist minister. Found it really interesting, kind of reminded me of Tracy Chevalier and Daphne du Maurier combined together, and certainly worth a read. In July I was sent this lovely, gorgeous book, which is Franklin and Luna Go to the Moon by Jen Campbell. Jen Campbell is a booktuber, and I'll link her channel down below, and this is her second children's book, which follows the first one, which is called Franklin's Flying Bookshop, and it's about a dragon and a little girl, and they like reading, and it's glorious. I also went along to the book launch in early September, which was really good fun. I then have 2 books that I was sent at the end of August, I think, both of which I read in September, and I'll be speaking about more in my September wrap-up. This is the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Society, which looks at post-war Guernsey and the effect of the Nazi occupation in the Second World War on Guernsey, and also a particular literary society there. I found this a really enjoyable read, and it's all written in letter form, and I thought the epistolary novel form worked really well here. However, I will say it probably didn't like blow me away, but anyway, I'll talk about that more in my September wrap-up. And then Profile Books very kindly sent me a copy of Washington Black by Essie Edgerguan, which was, at the time they sent it to me, longlisted for the Man Booker Prize and has since been shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize, and I hope it wins. It is the only one I have read on the whole long list, but it's really good. Kind of a little bit Dickensian in a way, which is a weird thing to say about a book about a runaway slave in 19th century America, but still, it was a little bit Dickensian and wonderfully unique and adventurous, and yeah, would definitely recommend, but I'll talk about it a bit more in my end of month wrap-up. And then the other review copy I was sent recently, which I haven't read yet, is this, which is Dip Flash by Jonathan Pinnock. So I was actually sent this like back in the spring, I think, but it was sent to my old address, so it only kind of got its way to me recently. Jonathan Pinnock is a writer I really enjoy. His poetry and his novels and his short stories are incredibly funny. I know him in real life as well. He was on the Creative Writing Masters that I did a few years ago, and I really enjoyed reading his work there. This is a new collection of short stories by him that I'm really looking forward to reading, and also coming out quite soon as well is his new novel, which I read parts of in our Creative Writing Masters workshops several years ago, and I'm really excited to see a novel haul, but I'm sure I will tell you about that at some point in the future. And then I have the 6 hard copy books that I purchased, which is more than I would like. I have been trying to be a bit better and sort of buy less books just because I'm slightly running out of space. And I also know that I have a lot of books at my parents' house, which I should really like house in my own flat at some point, but you know, it's fine. Anyway, the first two books are books that I bought when I went to YALC, the Young Adult Literary Convention, back in July, because there were a lot of books in that room and some of them sounded really good, so I did get some books. The first one is A Close and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers, which is the second book in her series, which began with The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, which I read a year or two ago and absolutely loved, so definitely looking forward to reading this very soon. And then this is A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. I picked this up completely on a whim. This is like the only book I have bought entirely on a whim in the last several months, so I'm pleased about that. But anyway, I saw the cover and it was beautiful, and I read the back, and it is a YA historical fiction novel set in the 1920s, and I was like, well, I need that in my life, so I bought it. I haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to it when I finally get to it. Another thing I bought in the last few months is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. I have read this already and really enjoyed it. It was a really interesting read. I like Neil Gaiman's writing a lot. This follows a little girl and what happens when she moves with her parents to a new house, which has a door in it which leads nowhere, except when sometimes it does lead somewhere, and to a dark, not very nice place. It's kind of a bit creepy, but also really fun. And yeah, I like Neil Gaiman a lot. It's nice to read some middle grade every now and then. And then I also bought 3 classics in the last few months. The first 2 are Penguin Little Black Classics. Basically, I was ordering online a book for a friend's birthday, and to get free postage, I needed like £2 more, and I thought, well, 1, 2... Penguin Little Black Classics. Anyway, I'm going to read both of these in Booktopia. They're not going to take me very long. I will definitely read them soon. This is As Kingfishers Catch Fly by Gerald Manley Hopkins, who is a Victorian poet I really like. This is just a little collection of his, and this is a little collection of essays, also from the Victorian period, by Henry Mayhew about London. So yeah, looking forward to this as well. Finally, a couple of weeks ago, I also bought a new Persephone classic. This is Young Anne by Dorothy Whipple. I am a member of a book club called the Tenterhooks Book Club, which is run by Angelica Kofa and Emma from Drinking by My Shelf. I'll link both of their channels down below. And when we met up for the book club early in September, we discussed the book we were talking about, which was The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, and then we went to a few bookshops that were near where we had met up, and we went into Persephone Books, and I find it very hard to go in there and not buy anything, especially as of September I have read all the rest of my Persephone books, so I thought it was about time to get a new one. And I've heard brilliant things about Dorothy Whipple, I think mainly from Anne from Beyond the Pages, so definitely looking forward to this one. Hello, this is Katie from the future here. Since I filmed this video about a week ago, I actually happened to acquire 2 more books, so it's more than I intended in the last few months, but we'll live with that. And I thought I would quickly slip those 2 books into this video. The first one is this proof copy of When All Is Said by Anne Griffin. Sceptre have very kindly sent me a review copy of this, and I'm very excited. It is one of my most anticipated books of next year. It's coming out in January and it sounds amazing. I gather it focuses on an elderly man looking back on his life, and the kind of tagline is 5 toasts, 5 people, 1 lifetime, so I think he's looking back on like the 5 people who have had the most influence on his life, and it sounds wonderful. Another reason why I'm really looking forward to this is that Anne Griffin is actually represented by the same literary agent as me, and knowing that naturally I have quite similar tastes to my literary agent, I'm really looking forward to reading this. And then the other book I acquired is Take Nothing With You by Patrick Gale. Last night, as of when I'm filming this, I went to an event where Patrick Gale was talking about his new book, and it sounded incredible, and of course I wanted to buy a copy, and I did get it signed as well, which is always very exciting, so there we go, I like that. I read A Place Called Winter earlier this year and absolutely fell in love with it, and since then I'm desperate to read more. But this is his latest novel, which has just come out, and it sounds incredible. Like, it's just one of those books that ticks like so many of my bookish boxes. It's a time-slip novel, it's about musicians and family drama, and explores themes of kind of sexuality and growing up and like so many of the things that I really like to read about in books. And apparently it was also heavily influenced by L.P. Hartley's The Go-Between, which is a novel that I love, so just so many exciting things about this novel. It follows a man called Eustace who is going into hospital to be treated for cancer. Locked in a lead room for 48 hours while undergoing very intensive radiotherapy, Eustace kind of reflects on his life and his childhood in Weston-super-Mare in the 1970s, when kind of figuring out that he was gay and also learning how to play the cello and the kind of impact music had on his life. It just sounds incredible, and I'm very excited for it. There we go, those are the 2 extra books that I have to add into this haul, and yeah, we'll go back to Katie from the past now. There we have it, those are all the books that I've acquired in the last few months. Please let me know down in the comments if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.